Well, hi again, folks. I'm the Public Information Director, Greg Flynn, here for the City of Pearl, and welcome into This Week in Pearl. We have got some tremendous guests for you this week. We are joined by our representative. He is Mr. Gene Newman, and he has brought in a very special guest in Commissioner Sean Tindell of the Department of Public Safety for the state of Mississippi, and he's going to be our neighbor pretty soon, and we're going to talk about that here coming up. Commissioner, thank you so much for coming in.
Great to be here, Greg.
Gene, thank you for bringing him in.
He's very special. We're gonna take very good care of him and his apartment in Pearl.
Absolutely. Well, as we mentioned, you're going to be our neighbor. The Department of Public Safety headquarters is being built right here in our backyard, and it is exciting out there, isn't it?
It is truly amazing to watch the work that Andrew Corps is doing building it, and the speed at which they're doing it, and the quality of work that they're doing. It really is spectacular. And really, the architectures have done such a great job merging with the crime lab that's out there. And so it'll be a public safety complex that's second to none in this whole country.
So just to give you guys some a sense of where that is. So if you go down Airport Road, about halfway down before you get to Whitfield, there's a traffic light there. It's called Allen Stewart Drive. And if you make a right on there, drive around, you get the State Fire Academy is right in front of you. Then just off to the left, behind the trees, is the beautiful crime lab that's been there almost 10 years now, is it?
About 10 years.
And then now the public safety headquarters are going up out there. And it's huge, but there's a reason why it's huge.
Yeah, it's a massive building, over 150,000 square feet, and it's going to be the headquarters for the Department of Public Safety. And a lot of people don't realize when they hear the Department of Public Safety, they think Mississippi Highway Patrol. And that's because the Department of Public Safety and the Mississippi Highway Patrol were founded together in 1938, and for many years operated as one and the same. But as times changed and we added the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, the Mississippi Office of Homeland Security, of course you've had your driver services there, the crime lab, the medical examiner's office, MDOT put their law enforcement there, so now that's a division of the Department of Public Safety, Capitol Police. You have 11 different divisions, and they've been spread out at different headquarters all across the state and the Jackson metro area. So for the first time, all those divisions will be located in one building. And it's going to improve public safety for our state. It's going to improve intelligence in the law enforcement community. And we're going to be able to provide a better service for the citizens. And look, Pearl, a study was done. It was determined to be the best location to put the crime lab and the Department of Public Safety, and this has been a long time coming, and working with our legislators, we were able to get it done a couple of years ago, and we expect to be in there next year. And so I think it's going to be great, again, for the state. It's going to be great for the city of Pearl, and it's definitely a move forward for law enforcement and public safety in Mississippi.
And we owe Senator Dean Kirby for getting that there. He's the one that pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. Him and Representative Tom Weathersby from down at Florence. Those two guys have worked on this for a long time, and they just never let it go, and they have succeeded.
Absolutely.
Well, the heavy lift, I mean, this has been a couple of decades that Senator Kirby was trying to push this through the legislature, and then it finally got done. And what pushed it past the finish line, Gene?
I think Governor Bryant kind of tipped it. In other words, he recognized the need to consolidate everything, and his help in pushing it, and just other folks recognizing that it was time to get it done. That's what tipped it over, and the fact that Senator Kirby became President Pro Tem.
It's definitely been a long time coming, because that old building on Woodrow Wilson, it had served its time, right?
Where we are is one of the premier locations in the state. If you look at the corner of Woodrow Wilson and I-55, with the medical community that's there with UMMC and Baptist and the Veterans Hospital, there's a lot of things that you can do with that piece of property, and the highest and best use of it is probably some sort of commercial development that can provide
hotels,
restaurants,
restaurants, and put taxes back in the city of Pearl and the state.
And the state, and
I mean,
the city of Jackson.
I said the city of Pearl, I mean the city of Jackson.
Which they're in desperate need of. You
Right.
know, you need hotel space like right there for people that are extended stays at the hospitals.
Correct.
Absolutely, you got the Children's Hospital right there, and a lot of parents going through some of the most difficult circumstances as a parent you could imagine, and having a hotel, extended stay or some sort with restaurants and other things right next to the children's hospital obviously is I think a benefit for everybody. So it made sense all the way around. And then again, when you looked at taking what is the state's largest law enforcement agency and combining the resources that we have and putting us under one roof, makes for a safer Mississippi, which is what we all want.
Now, most of the time, people, your hair stands up, you start breathing heavy if a highway patrolman gets behind you, see a trooper behind you. But they really do great things. They're not just there to write you tickets, but they are actually your first responders for life-saving many times.
They are, and they work a lot of regs in our state. And really one of the founding principles is public safety and courtesy. And routinely you'll see our troopers and you'll see social media posts where they've helped individuals that are stranded change a tire and do those kind of things. So it's not always chasing the criminals that, of course that gets the headlines, but these law enforcement officers do a lot, little things each and every day to help the citizens.
Well, everybody in Pearl knows, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for everybody else that doesn't realize, but the best place to get your driver's license efficiently is right down the road here in Pearl as well.
They're doing a great job. And that was the other part of it. Of course, you got the crime lab and the public safety headquarters are going to be next door to each other right there in Pearl. So we'll have a public safety complex. But you also have Troop C headquarters out there where our driver service station is for the Troop C district. You got Malota, you've got MEMA, you've got the Fire Academy, as you already mentioned. So you have all these public service sector operations that are going on right there and they're centralized. And then we talked about driver services is one of our, I think, crowning accomplishment over the last few years.
It's the most wonderful thing that you've done since you went there was to fix that.
We, 3-hour waits
it was a
in
nightmare.
2020. People were, my first day on the job, of course, coming out of COVID, I was told we're going to reopen in 3 weeks, so get ready after being closed with COVID. And they'd already had 3-hour long waits, and then we were closed for 6 weeks. So when we opened, there was lines wrapped around the building, and you really just wondered if we were ever going to get out of that. But we've used technology as our friend. The online appointment system, as well as the apps that we have now, allow people to renew online. And so the average wait time, if you go now, is less than 15 minutes. Whereas a few years ago it was 3 hours.
Well, the kiosks that you guys have employed too, I mean, the self-service is amazing.
And those have been great. But, the kiosks, the interesting things with those is if they kind of serve their function. And if you look at even if we think about ATMs, you're seeing fewer and fewer ATMs in the banking community because people are using mobile cash apps. And so, we established a Mississippi Mobile ID where you can carry your driver's license on your phone. And so those things are kind of moving and taking away the kiosks because people have their own personal devices that they carry with them to do the same functions. And so, that's been tremendous, and the buy-in from the legislature on that, helping with the funding to secure the technology as well as the improve the salaries for those working there, have made a tremendous difference. And we've made an effort to make sure that we preach customer service to the employees there. And look, they're frustrated too when people are mad and yelling because they've been waiting 3 hours. The employees get mad and frustrated. And so it's just made for a better overall environment across the board.
Well, it just makes it more efficient too. I mean, I know it takes less people probably to work because technology just does that, right? If I got to go to Walmart, I got to check myself out. I got to go to Kroger, I check myself out. But here you can check yourself out doing your driver's license, which I think a lot of people don't have the angst now.
That's right.
Of trying to get their license renewed.
That's right, and it doesn't sneak up on people like it used to. And I tell this story whenever I go around talking to folks. When we originally instituted the mobile ID, which allows you to carry your driver's license on your phone, and that was passed by the legislature, mandated that we do that. The first time it was coming live was October 2021, and they wanted to make sure I was going to be the first person that had it on their phone in the state, so I could explain how it worked. And they gave me the program. I downloaded it, and you're supposed to take a picture of your driver's license, and then it uploads, uses facial recognition to recognize you. And I couldn't get it to work. It kept showing up error. And I called our staff and said, this is awful. It's going to go live a week from now. We can't get it to work. This is going to be a disaster with the billboards, TV ads, radio ads promoting this. And they said, we'll get to work on it, Commissioner. And 2 days later, they got somebody to call me and say, Commissioner, we figured out the problem. your license was expired. That's why it didn't work. And so, that's the other great thing about the mobile ID. It'll give you push notifications when your license is going to expire, so you don't get caught in that situation. And taking advantage of technology, preparing for the future, and look, getting people out of those dang lines so they can be more productive in their personal life, at work, or what have you, has been a big plus.
Well, and again, just because, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting older, still go low tech and high tech. Always have a hard copy of that license. Don't just rely on it being on your phone. God forbid your phone dies and you can't show it to somebody, right?
Well, that's right. And look, and the reality is we recognize it under Mississippi law, but you might be traveling to Tennessee or Texas or some other state that doesn't. And then a lot of your financial institutions still, because of federal regulations, require you to have a physical ID. So it's a great backup, but I would always keep that physical ID if you have it. Keep it on you.
Well, one thing I know both of you are very, very proud of has been the Capitol Police Force.
Yes.
It has really made such a difference, and it's been a battle, but they are really doing some good over there in the capital city.
I believe so. And again, a vision of the legislatures to move those officers from the Department of Finance Administration, which was a good home for them for many years when they were providing security for state buildings. But I think everybody has recognized that the city of Jackson has had some crime issues. And like most agencies across the state have struggled with recruiting and retaining law enforcement officers. So there was a belief that having Capitol Police transition into more of a true police agency would be a benefit and would help with the recruiting of officers, and it has helped. And so it's been a force multiplier. And look, we routinely meet with the sheriff of Hinds County, we meet with the chief. When you take the politics out of policing, it really becomes an effective tool for keeping your community safe. And I think, unfortunately, what we saw happening is too often the politics were getting into the policing. And so I think we've brought a resurgence of we're going to do some policing and let us do our job. And with that, JPD's been able to do their job and Hinds County's been able to do their job. And there's been this emphasis on public safety. And if you look at the numbers, because I'm a big believer in numbers, homicides are lower and violent crimes going down. And I think those are really good indicators that things are improving in the city of Jackson and the CCID.
Well, one of the things in the legislature they just passed, Gene, and I know you were a big proponent of it, was just expanding the jurisdiction, the district, as it were. So now you're covering more ground, right? Covering
more ground, and they did extend the boundaries of the CCID a little bit, and they gave Capitol Police jurisdiction throughout the entire city. But it also clarified, and it was probably a clarification that needed to be made, that the Capitol Police were the primary law enforcement agency within the CCID. And JPD and Hinds County would obviously have joint jurisdiction, which was kind of the case anyway. But outside of that, Capitol Police could pursue and help JPD in other areas of the city at their request. So that, again, we're a force multiplier, working together and trying to make our capital city and Jackson a safer place. And, I've gone to a lot of town hall meetings. I know the media and the activists in some regards like to push back on it for it being something that's not. But when you talk to the families that live there and they want a yard in a neighborhood where their grandkids and kids can play safely without the fear of crimes being perpetrated against them, they're happy to have the added law enforcement. And there were things that I needed to hear and listen, and I think we've taken those and tried to reach out to the community more to make sure that they know who to talk to if they have issues and create greater trust in that community. And we've been doing that. And so it was good to hear some of the complaints folks have, but we're doing this for the right reasons, and I think that's why we're seeing good results.
Well, and the court debacle misnomers that were out there about judges and who would be hearing the cases of Capitol Police, I think that you guys have really helped solve that in the legislature.
Well, we made it stronger, but we have to wait to see what the federal judge does before it actually all takes place. So.
But the key was, I think what the state was trying to say is we're not trying to take away any local or municipal authority. This is just to help plus you up, right?
Right.
That's right. And look, I'm a former judge, and I'll just say, in reading the plain language of the statute, I mean, it does say in the Constitution, talks about inferior courts that can be created by the legislature, like municipal courts. And so I think that's what they've done with the CCID, is they've created an inferior court to hear misdemeanors within the CCID. And so I do feel confident that once the court really looks at it, we'll render the right decision, and hopefully we'll be able to proceed with helping make the city of Jackson and the CCID safer, and create an environment where criminals know there's accountability. And if you commit a crime, you're going to do the time.
Well, the great part is, you know, I think people didn't understand that, as you talked about with misdemeanors, you know, you will help enforce misdemeanors now, but all of the, you know, the big cases, your felony cases and that sort of thing, still go to the Hinds County District Attorney. There's not taking anything away from them. This is just making sure people pay their tickets and they're held accountable for misdemeanors.
That's right. That's right. That's all that this court created. It wasn't a felony court, and it certainly wasn't trying to take away any jurisdictional authority from Jody Owens and the great job that I think he's been doing as the Hinds County District Attorney. So, you know, I think that ultimately we'll see what the court does, but for now, we're just going to keep moving forward with what we've been tasked to do, which is to make the CCID safer.
Well, as a former judge and somebody that's been around the law enforcement circles, you know, it's been proven, right, that misdemeanors lead to felonies. So if you nip them in the bud when they're accountable for misdemeanors, then you may not see as many felonies down the line. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. And I think there's been study after study that have indicated, I think they call it the broken window theory. If you allow windows to be broken in on your main street and criminals aren't held accountable for that, then your murder rate's going to go up in about 10 or 15 years. So it's about accountability, creating a culture of accountability. And also policing. Look, policing has changed, and we recognize that, and we're trying to make sure that we're training our officers better and doing a better job with in-service training and being responsive to demands of the public, but doing it with the mindset that we're going to hold criminals accountable.
Well, it's really, I mean, I'm blessed because I get to know everything that you guys do, but for the public to understand everything that falls under public safety, whether it's Homeland Security, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, the Bureau of Narcotics, it's just unbelievable how much ground you guys cover as one state agency.
Yeah, it is a large agency, and it has been an honor of my lifetime to be in this position, because I can say that I worked with law enforcement as a prosecutor and an assistant DA. I worked with law enforcement as a legislature, and even on the court, hearing a lot of cases, obviously, that involved the work of law enforcement. So I thought I had a good understanding of what it is that they do each and every day. But being in this position, I think being a leader for law enforcement in the state, it's really opened my eyes to the sacrifices that they make. And so it's been an honor to serve in this role, to hopefully do a good job representing them and the needs that they have. But I can tell you, it is a large agency that demands a lot, and I'm so thankful for our employees and their public service heart to serve and make our state safer. And I joke around sometimes. I say, before I got to DPS, I used to drink vanilla lattes, and now I drink coffee black, because you need to stay up all the time and be ready to go.
Well, we are excited that all of you folks are going to be right here in our backyard, just on the outskirts of Pearl. Officially, you're not in the city of Pearl, right? Isn't that still just state land out there? Or is the...
I don't know where our line's at out there. It's somewhere real close right in there.
Well, we're going to count you.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where the address says Pearl, but you might not be quite in Pearl.
Right.
So,
just like the airport.
But see, I'm not sure that the line, they don't fall in the city. It's right there somewhere.
Yeah, we're right on the edge, but we claim the airport too. I mean, that's in our city. So
it's all Pearl.
We'll take all of you guys.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. One thing. Was there anything else we were missing? It's such a large department. Was there something else that we wanted to?
Well, you know, public safety and planning handles millions of dollars of federal grants that come down to make our highways and states safer. They've been located in North Jackson. They're going to be moving down there. Of course, we talked about driver services. The medical examiner's office is also a part of the crime lab, but we had a backlog that went back to 2012, and we've gotten that to about 2020 on the backlog.
Wow.
And so we're doing a much better job trying to get these reports back out to families. And again, the crime lab's right across the parking lot from the new headquarters, and so it's just going to create that public safety complex that's going to be really great for our state. And again, I couldn't be prouder of the men and women that do the job every day, and the legislators. I mean, I spend a lot of time at the Capitol. Your representatives and senators are very supportive of public safety initiatives, and so it's made my job a lot easier to have the support of people that believe in law enforcement and public safety in our state.
Well, we are a law and order state, right? I mean,
Let's keep it that way.
that's exactly what we're trying to do.
I know it comes up a good bit, officer-involved shootings. You know, that is something that the legislature mandated that the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation handle anytime that there's an officer-involved shooting. And I believe it's because of the scrutiny that's placed on those in today's world. It was important to make sure that an independent agency was reviewing each and every one of those. And some of the changes that we've made there, it used to be that we never provided the body cam footage or the reports that come out of the investigation on those cases. I'm a big believer in transparency, so we made a commitment that even though we didn't have to, under current law, we were going to provide the body cam footage and dash cam footage of those incidences. And really the premises behind that is the belief that with transparency, you create accountability. With accountability, you earn the trust of the public. And that's what we're trying to maintain with that. And it has been interesting to see from one end of the state to the other when those incidents occur, some of the common themes, why they occur. And a lot of times it's non-compliance. A lot of times those incidences involve mental health issues. I mean, we had an incident down in Bay St. Louis where 2 officers were killed in the line of duty, and the lady was clearly having a mental health episode and shot and killed 2 officers. So it is a very dangerous job, and our officers at NBI are trying to do a good job of getting to the bottom of each and every one of those cases and ensure the public that eventually, should any charges come, that it's going to be an independent investigation and one in which they can have faith that NBI is doing a good job with.
Well, 2 things on that. One, I think it's very important. I love the fact that you talk about the transparency because it changes rumors and court of public opinion. And they're like, oh, this is what happened because I heard from you-know-who and my cousin, my sister. They can see with their own eyes, no, we're not lying. This is exactly what happened. So I think that's very important.
I think it absolutely is. And the reality is, and I'm a believer that the timing matters. A lot of jurisdictions have gone to releasing the video within 48 hours. I don't believe we should be trying officers in the court of public opinion.
Right.
We don't try anybody else in the court of public opinion, so why would we treat them different? It needs to be done in a court of law. So we've said that we would release those videos once the judicial process has been completed. But it does create that confidence. They know, the public knows that they're going to get an opportunity to read our reports and see these videos. And if the wrong decision is reached, there'll be accountability for the public officials that reach that decision. So I think it's the best way to go. And transparency, although sometimes can be a hard pill to swallow, certainly is the best practice and one in which creates that accountability and that trust of the public.
Well, not only shootings, but something that we're well aware of here in Pearl and in Rankin County you are called in to investigate pursuits that end in accidents and things like that. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, they're just going to side with the police department. It's just rubber stamp. No, you guys are actually truly independent. And if somebody's done wrong in a police department, in a municipality or a county sheriff, you guys will call them on that.
That's right. And look, sometimes our folks are involved in those types of accidents, and law enforcement has to be impartial. In today's world, we know that the scrutiny of the public is going to review the reports. And if you don't reach the right conclusion, again, you're going to have to answer from that. And the reality is, unfortunately, we've had incidences where certain laws weren't followed, and there has to be accountability when those things occur. And sometimes it's not criminal, sometimes it's civil, sometimes it could be somebody's job. And so, we've got to make sure that we create those cultures of accountability in law enforcement.
One final thing before you go, they've been circulating on social media. I love the throwback state trooper vehicles. Those aren't actually going to be on the road, are they? Just
no, we have some on the road. Those are some of our 85th commemorative cars that we've put out there to reflect some of the original cars that we had on the road. And we've got some different ideas for those going into the future. I doubt that we change the trooper style vehicle. I think they're very much well known for the trooper cars. But looking at it, and we talked a little bit earlier about the courtesy officers that can provide help for those that are broken down. It might be that we take those vehicles and utilize those. Maybe for somebody that's going to go into a future trooper school to go ahead and start working with the agency, but we can put them on the road and let them operate in those vehicles to provide, tire changes and services for those that break down.
You having, Dean, were you having flashbacks when you see the single light on top, the single blue light on the top?
But what you don't realize is when those single blue lights was on the top, most of those cars were owned by the highway patrolman. Back in those days, the highway patrolman had to buy his own car, buy his own uniform.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was all.
Yeah. And if there are any highway patrolmen listening, we're not planning on bringing that back.
We don't want to bring that back, but that was, and that's been when I was young, but we won't, it's a long time ago in a place far, far away, but they had to buy their own cars, and they've come a long way, and they keep coming a long way. Speaking of coming a long way, you're also going to have another trooper class coming up next February sometime.
We are, and that's one of the things that we've changed. We're doing an annual trooper school now. I mean, there was a time when we had gone 8 years and had one trooper school. The numbers dipped way down, and so one of the things that I've been a proponent of is that we're going to have a trooper school. We're going to do it every year, and we're going to start it at the end of January, 1st of February, and we're going to recruit throughout the year, and so that we can keep those numbers up. We've been floating around 500 since I've been here. The goal is to get to 600, which we're allocated up to 650 troopers. And I was just over in the Starkville Troop District last week and came into our dispatch room and was watching our CAD system that showed all the patrolmen in that troop district moving around and where they were. And we had 4 covering 9 counties. And that's
crazy.
Just not enough on one shift to make sure that when citizens get into a wreck or there's an issue, that we have enough officers that can respond, enough troopers. And so we're working to get those numbers up so that we can have more troopers on the road and making our highways and roads safer in this state. I think all law enforcement is a very much an honorable career path, but when you join the Mississippi Highway Safety Patrol, it's a statewide organization. You have an opportunity to work with elected officials in the Senate and the House, the governor, lieutenant governor, and it just brings a different aspect. Plus, the starting salary now, because of the work that they've done, is $50,000 a year, plus the ability to work overtime. So a young 21, 22, 23-year-old looking for a career in law enforcement can get out making $50,000 to $60,000 a year and know that I have a possible future career path going to the NBI, going to NBN, going to Homeland Security, moving up in rank, and eventually one day become the colonel, flying helicopters.
Well, and that's true if you want to be a trooper or any other within the Department of Public Safety.
And it's it. I mean, there's a pathway to go to the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics and be an investigator there. And so there's just a lot of opportunities, a lot of different things that we cover and do.
Representative Newman, thank you for coming in. You're going to be our neighbor. Commissioner Tindell, you can come back on anytime.
Would love to. Love to. And thank both of y'all.
Excellent. Hey, if you guys are interested in those DPS careers, again, visit their website, dps.ms.gov. and check out the wide range of jobs that they have available. It really is a rewarding career. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of This Week in Pearl. I'm Greg Flynn, and we will talk to you again soon.